First CVAC bowling match of the year 2000 is getting off to a late start. It's supposed to start at 3:41. I pulled in at 3:27. Starting the game a little late. We have to get out of here for basketball before this match is over with, but we'll be here for part of it. Gave us we were guilty of doing a little last minute roster writing down. We missed the first couple of balls here in this game, and looks like we have the names but not in the order that they're bowling, so that's going to make it a little difficult at times. Rob Gagnon was the first bowler for the Cougars. He picked up a spare, and Casey St. Clair picked up 6 pins and had as an open frame here to start things. Andrew Barcombe is up now for the Cougars, and for the Peru Indians we have, I believe, Matt St. Clair. Yeah, Matt St. Clair. This is Andrew Barcombe here on the right. He gets 9. St. Clair got a strike. Now we have TM. That'd be Travis Martin for the Indians. And Martin gets a strike. I'll bring up Andrew Goodrich for the Cougars. Has a 168 average. And he gets, just avoids a split. Leaves 2 on his first ball. Now we have another St. Clair. This is John St. Clair. And he gets 6 pins on his first ball. Now we'll have Goodrich going for his spare. And Goodrich will go in the gutter. Now St. Clair going for his spare, 4 pins standing. And he'll get 2 of them. And quickly we go to Chucker Chipola, Adam Chipola. And he gets 8 pins on his first ball. We broke off momentarily to check our audio. Chucker gets 9 pins for the frames. We have Reeves, Wayne Reeves, the anchor bowler for Peru. He gets 8 pins. He got double wood here. And he's going to try to slice it, but he misses. He gets 9 pins to start the game. He carries a 204 average. Now we have the Cougar anchor bowler, 184 average, Nate Roberts. He gets 7 pins in his first ball. Now Robbie Gagnon will bowl. Gagnon working on a spare in the second frame. Gagnon carries a 169 average here in the early going. This is the first match of the season, so they have some qualifying games for the team and so on, and that's what they get their early average out of, to the best of my knowledge. So Roberts has an open frame. That's a rarity for him, and Gagnon is going to follow with an open frame also. Now we have Casey St. Clair stepping up to the plate here for the Peru Indians. And he'll pick up 7 pins in his first ball. St. Clair was working on an open in the first frame. Right down the pike for Barcombe, so Andrew Barcombe picks up a strike after getting an open in the first frame. That gives him 19 at this point. Now St. Clair is going to miss his spare attempt, and he'll pick up 7 pins for the frame. Now we go to Goodrich. And Goodrich strikes. Andrew Goodrich. Well, it's 142 after one frame, 162 after one frame for the Cougars. So they're up by 20 pins. And now it's St. Clair. Matt St. Clair, I believe we're at here. Matt St. Clair gets 9 pins in his first ball, and that adds to his team's first frame total. Chipola gets a split. So at this point it's 162 to 151 in that first frame. And it's going to remain there at this point. Chipola gets 2 of them. That's what the experts say to do. Go for the wood. Get the 2 pins. Now Travis Martin. He strikes. That gives him a double. Now Roberts, who had that rare open in the first frame. He gets a strike. Now John St. Clair. He gets 9 pins in his first ball. He's working on an open. So 161 to 162 is how that first frame is going to stand. There's nobody left on the Cougar side to bowl, and nobody with a spare here for the Indians left to bowl. St. Clair will pick up his spare with not much left to spare. So right now the Cougars have 210 in the second frame. Ed Reeves set to bowl his first ball, and he strikes. So it'll be 2-7 to 210. That's very close match here in the early going. We'll be covering the B match and the girls A match. And as I said, we're going to have to leave early. So John Roberts will be grabbing that camera for probably the girls A match. We'll see how things progress. Gagnon with the 9 pins, and on his ball he's working on an open. He had 25 through the first 2 frames. And now Casey St. Clair had 7 pins in his first ball. He has a doable spare, and he picks it up. So that's his first mark. Now Gagnon will pick up his. So Gagnon spares. And this match remains very tight here. Game 1. They'll each bowl 3. And the total pins will get the 4th point. A stubborn 10 pin. And Barcombe just misses getting a strike. St. Clair. He gets his strike. Now Barcombe will pick up his. Gets his spare here. Only 2 words I have to remember: strike and spare. If I mess those up, I might as well hand this mic to somebody else. And believe me, I've been trying to hand it to somebody else. Now Martin up for the Indians. And Martin leads the 10 pin. That gets us to Goodrich. And he avoids the split. So after 2 frames at this point, Indians are leading by about 5 pins at this point. Martin will miss his spare. It gives him an open here in the 3rd. And it looks like a fault was called on Goodrich. And he gets 9 pins for the frame, almost picking up the spare. He had a fault on his first ball, must have stepped on the line. John St. Clair gets 7 pins, and Adam Chipola. And he narrowly avoids a split. And St. Clair, a nice ball. He had 6 pins, so he got 4 with that one. Chipola going for his spare, and he will pick it up. Now brings us to Reeves. And Reeves has a baby split. Roberts leaves a 10 pin. Field goal for Reeves. Right between them. Well, at this point, the Cougars have taken the lead again in a seesaw battle. Roberts picks it up to give the Cougars 287, and Indians have 284 after 3. Gagno stepping up for the Cougars. Gagno leaves a pin, and now St. Clair starting things off in the Indian half of the 4th frame. He gets 7 pins. Gagno has a 44 through the first 3 frames. And he'll have a spare and a 54 going into the 5th. Now St. Clair has a 30 through the first 3 frames. Looking to pick up a spare, and he's got it, so that gives him 40 and a spare going into the 5th. Now brings up Barcombe for the Cougars. And Barcombe gets 9 pins. He's working on a spare. Now Matt St. Clair. And he strikes. Barcombe. Oh! Just barely nipped it. The ball hadn't picked up a little dust. You might have missed that one. 10 pin stands for Martin. Goodrich gets 7 on his first ball. Martin picks up the spare. Goodrich misses. It's open for the 4th, and a strike here. A strike for John St. Clair. Now Chipola for the Cougars. Chipola strikes. And quickly Reeves is up and he strikes. Carrying a 204 average, so you know these open frames that he's gotten are a rarity. Well, everybody marks for the Indians there in the 4th. Roberts. Oh! Has only the 7 pin left. Only the 7 pin left. A little late action there kept him from a tough spare. Cougars have 1 open thus far. Well, Roberts picks it up. He'll have just 1 open here in the 4th, and he picks up his spare. And Gagno set to start things off in the 5th. 361 to 371, but the Indians have 3 strikes going into the 5th. 3 strikes to the Cougars, 1 strike in the 4th frame. Gagnon picks up 7 pins in his first ball. Now Casey St. Clair. And he gets 8 pins. Gagnon will get the spare. $377 to $388 at this point. And an open for Casey St. Clair as Barcombe steps up and leaves a 7 pin. Barcombe is at a strike and 3 9-pin spares, where he's got the 9 pins in his first ball. And this time he's going to miss that spare. Oh, Barcombe has an open as Matt St. Clair is up for the Indians. St. Clair working on a strike, so he wants to pick up this spare. He's got a doable spare, but he's got to hit it just right to pick up that double wood on the left part of the spare. He's going to miss it all. Meanwhile, Goodrich gets 9 pins on his first ball. We're in the 5th frame. 414 to 391 at this point. Northeastern leading. But the Indians have 2 more strikes from the previous frame to be counted in here. Martin gets 9 pins and Goodrich picks up his spare. Now Martin will go for his spare, a 10 pin, while Chipola will step up. And Martin will miss his spare. Jim Turney does a little run down between the alleys. Chipola strikes. Jim the pin setter. Oops. Where'd he go? Do not attempt that at home, folks. Jim disappeared into the bowels of the Bowl Mart. Got a strike there by John St. Clair while we were watching Jim. So St. Clair has a double. Roberts has picked up 9 pins in his first ball. And now here's Reeves was working on a strike and leaves a 10 pin. Roberts right down the alley, and he's got his spare. Looks like he has a spare ball that he uses. So 2 balls. He uses one for his first ball and one for the spare. Reeves picks up his spare. It looks like 456 for the Cougars at this point as Casey St. Clair steps up. 456 to 449. And Reeves, that St. Clair has a small split. Now Gagnon. And Gagnon gets a bouncing strike. St. Clair's going to try to cut that front pin on the right, and ended up going into the gutter. Barcombe picks up a spare. Gives me a strike. My first bowling match of the season, folks. Barcombe picks up a strike, so the Cougars have 2 strikes to start things in the 6th. And now Matt St. Clair, working on an open, is going up for the Indians, and Andrew Goodrich for the Cougars. St. Clair gets 7 pins, Goodrich leaves 2. At this point, the Cougar lead has opened up a little bit, but they've got two more bowlers, one more bowler than Indians have put up. There's a spare for St. Clair. Excuse me, an open for St. Clair and a spare for Goodrich. It's going to be a long season, I can see that. For me, that is, not for the bowlers. Martin up now for the Cougars. For the Indians, that is. Maybe I just point the camera and Martin gets 9 pins and Chipola gets 9 pins. Chris Welch, the coach for the Cougars. Sorry to see him become the coach because I lost a good play-by-play man. 5:31 for the Cougars at this point, 4:73 for the Indians. Martin will miss his spare. Chipola will pick his up. Oh, not by a lot. He breathes a sigh of relief.
All right, James. Good job, buddy. Go, James.
Now John St. Clair up. Gets 8 pins in his first ball. Now Nate Roberts. And he gets 6 pins in his first ball. He's working on a spare. Now St. Clair at double wood, he gets 1 of the pins. And Roberts cuts one off. I don't think his father taught him that one. Now Reeves gets 9 pins. St. Clair starting things with a 7th for the Indians. He gets 8 pins. Reeves picks it up. Gives him a spare and an 82. Going into the 7th frame. 5:16 to 5:46. Cougars are up by 30 pins at this point as St. Clair gets an open to start things in the 7th. Robbie Gagno knocks down 9 in his first ball. Now Matt St. Clair for the Indians. And he strikes. Gagno going for a spare. Misses it. Travis Martin. He gets 7 pins. And Barcom gets 8. Barcom picks up the spare. Nice job on that one. Now Martin goes for the wood and gets the 2. Goodrich up for the Cougars. He's working on a spare. And leaves a 7 pin. Now John St. Clair. He gets 10. Keeping Jim Tierney running here, Bowl Mart manager. A new slim and trim Jim Tierney, I might add. Goodrich picks up his spare. Now Reeves with his first ball. Strikes have been hard to come by here in this first game. In a lot of 9 pins in that first ball. And there's our first real nasty split. Chipola and Reeves misses the spare, misses the 7 pin. Or that? No, I guess that wasn't the 7 pin. Chipola. Yeah, nice try, picks up 2. Robbie Gagno starting the 8th frame for the Cougars. And Nate Roberts finishing up the 7th frame for the Cougars, gets 7 pins. Roberts working on an open. Northeastern has built up their lead to just under 50 pins at this point. Gagno gets 9 pins to start things in the 9th. Now Roberts looking for his spare. And he gets an open. First game of the year 2000. Barcombe gets 7 pins. Now Casey St. Clair up for Peru. St. Clair leaves 2 pins. And Barcombe picks up his spare. St. Clair misses his spare. Andrew Goodrich. Strike for Goodrich. Reminder to all the bowling fans out there, you can be just like John Roberts and be a supporter of Hometown Cable by sending in your contribution to Hometown Cable, 1477 Ridge Road in Champlain. Keep local programming coming. Viewer-supported television. Chipola gets 9 pins, and that's a little baby split here for St. Clair. This one here is Matt. No, this is Matt St. Clair, and he will pick up one of them. Chipola, 4th bowler for the Cougars. And he spares. Well, at this point, through 7 frames, it's 583 for Peru and 645 for the Cougars. Northeastern leading here, stretching it out a little bit. Martin leaves a 10 pin. Martin is the 4th bowler. I don't think we get into the averages too much, so we'll have to do that at this point. Roberts gets a strike, and he says it's about time. Now Martin going for the spare, and he'll pick it up. All right, for the Cougars, Nate Roberts has a 184 average. Rob Gagno has a 169. Andrew Goodrich has a 168. Adam Chipola 167, and Andy Barcombe a 159. So they're all pretty close. For the Indians, Wayne Reeves with a 204 average as John St. Clair bowls here and picks up the strike. Travis Martin has a 179. John St. Clair a 174. Casey St. Clair a 161 and Matt St. Clair a 152. Reeves picks up a strike and seems pleased with the whole thing. Now Casey St. Clair starting the 9th frame for the Indians. And he has a nasty leave there. So we are through 8. $6.94 for the Cougars, $6.40 for the Indians. Gagnon starts off the 9th frame for the Cougars with a strike. And a nice pickup here by Casey St. Clair. He gets the spare. Now we have Barcombe. And he strikes. Starting to heat up here as we get down to the nitty-gritty. Now Matt St. Clair. He's working on an open. And he gets about 7. So Goodrich to try to keep the strikes going for the Cougars. Goes Brooklyn and leaves a pin. Now St. Clair. He spares. Goodrich going for his spare. And he picks it up. Martin for the Indians. He strikes. Chapola gets a bouncer that picks up 9 pins. I'll get to John St. Clair. Well, the Indians putting some pressure on now. They get a strike here. Oh, gonna be 9 pins. Chapola looking for his spare. And he gets it with the curveball. Got a hanging curve and just picked up that pin. Now St. Clair. John St. Clair. He gets it. Roberts. Nate Roberts. He strikes. The Roberts family, the aces of the Cougar team. Cassie, Nate's sister. The anchor bowler for the girls team, and Nate, the anchor bowler for the boys team. Cougars pick up 3 strikes in the 9th frame, and the Indians pick up 2. But now starting the 10th frame is Casey St. Clair working on a spare. He gets 9 pins in his first ball. And Rob Gagnon will step in. 738 to 783, so it's not that far apart after 8, after 9. That's what, 783 to 738 was what it was after 9. But Rob Gagnon, who was working on a strikes. St. Clair gets a spare. So Gagnon trying to add a few more to that Cougar total, and he gets another strike. That's 3 in a row. He's got a turkey. And he'll be looking to strike out on his next ball, as Casey St. Clair rolls his fill ball. And going to pick up 10. So St. Clair gets a strike to end it. And Gagnon gets 9. But he'll be gladly settling for that. A 177 for the game. St. Clair got a 120. Now Matt St. Clair. He's working on a spare. Andrew Barcombe working on a strike for the Cougars. St. Clair just barely stayed on the alley. Managed to pick up 6 pins with that first ball. Now Barcombe gets 9 pins. Now St. Clair. He gets only 1. So I'll give him a 130 for his game. Barcombe will go in the gutter, so he'll finish out too. And let's see, 152 probably. Or 61. 161, yes. 161 for Barcombe. Martin gets a strike to start the 10th. Goodrich up now for the Cougars. Martin. Okay, another strike. Gives him a turkey. That's 3 in a row for him. Hey, Andrew Goodrich picks up his spare. Nice job. Now Martin looking to strike out. And he does. Travis Martin putting it on the heat. There's Goodrich. And he strikes. So Martin got a 183 as John St. Clair steps up and gets 10 pins. Goodrich finishes with a 158. Now Chipola. At this point, it's 8:41 for the Cougars, 8:41 for the Indians, 8:80 for the Cougars. Another strike. John St. Clair putting the pressure on Northeastern. Chipola gets an open. So Chipola will settle for a 155, or 157, excuse me. Thought that was a 6. 146 was a 148. St. Clair looking to strike out, and he does. So Peru with a late surge here. Look at all the strikes in the 10th frame for the Indians. So 897 to 861. I think Roberts just has to put the ball in the lane, but a split for Reeves. Roberts with the pressure off gets 6 pins. Reeves has a chance to make hometown cable history here. We've never taped a successful 7-10 split here, so let's see if he can pick it up. He's got the spin on it. He's got this. Gets a field goal instead. Now Roberts looking to spare. He'll keep bowling. So Reeves ends up with a 154. John St. Clair with a 199. Nice game there. Travis Martin a 183. And a 130 from Matt St. Clair and 120 from Casey St. Clair. For the Cougars, they're kind of all bunched up, kind of like their averages are. 920 though to 885, and Roberts' ball here will give him another 7. So 161 for Roberts. Cougars pick up a 927 to 885 win in the first game. 161, 157, 158, 161, 177. They're all kind of tight there. But Rob Gagnon leading the way for the Cougars here in the game one, and leading the game. The high for the day so far, John St. Clair with a 199. We're going to move now to the boys B, which is already underway. All right, we're at the boys match. We'll have to figure out who's who. Usually we have a minute or two between games, but in this case we don't. If they'd started on time, we'd have a good shot at taping this entire match, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it today. So hopefully John Roberts can take over the camera for us. All right, we're going to write down some names here while we watch them bowl. So don't go away. We'll be back talking in a moment. Okay, we've figured out who's out there for both teams. And if we can put our pen in our pocket, we'll pass that information along to you. For the boys, for the Cougars, in the B match here, or JV match. Now, I guess I've got to check and see if they're still using the format that they used last year. Last year they went to JV and varsity. And got away from the A-B matches where you have 8 points available for the team. So last year the A's were the varsity and the B's were the JVs. In the past, they all were varsity. Okay, Stan Kusalanis is for Peru. He's got a 147 average. Followed by Adam Rael with a 147. Chris Violet with a 142, Keith Kemp with a 138, and Frank Dajnow with a 136. For the Cougars, James Tierney has a 155, Tyler Davison has a 149, Alan Mabor, who just bowled right there, he's got a 140, Kelly Poisson has a 139, and John Gadway a 139. We're in the first frame. And this is Tierney for the Cougars, and he strikes. Oh, we'd moved. We had these seats here, but these girls were sitting there prior, but looks like they're just as happy where they are, so we're going to go back down and sit down again. Tierney got 9. You got a spare. I thought. Okay, now Kelly Poisson leading off for the Cougars in the second frame. He had an open of 9 pins in the first frame. And SK Stan Kusalanis leading off for the Indians. Now Tyler Davison. Oh no, this is still Poisson. He misses. He has another open, another 9 pins. So he's got on his way to a 99 if he keeps that up. AR, that would be Adam Rael. He's got 9. He was working on a spare. Tyler Davison for the Cougars. He was working on an open. He had 8 pins his first frame. He's got 8 so far in this frame. And Adam Rael leaves the 7 pin. Davison picks up the spare. Violet. Chris Violet. Who said there's too much violets on television? John Gadway is working on a spare. Gets 9 pins in his first ball. So Chris Violet. He misses. Now Gadway. He's going to put her in the gutter. Now Keith Kemp will step in. Alan Maybar over here. Maybar gets a strike. Tierney gets a strike. That was a strike for Frank Dajnon. It brings us back to Kusalanis. And he gets a split. Poisson for the Cougars. Poisson gets 9 pins. Kusalanis going for his spare. Misses it. Real for the Indians. Gets 7 pins. And Poisson will get his spare. Real gets 9 for the frame. And that brings up Tyler Davison. Davison gets the 8 pins, and Violet will be up, and he gets 8 for his first ball. Davison going for his spare, he misses it. Violet picks up his spare. And he gets us to Jonathan Gadway. With a couple late drops, he'll settle for that. Kemp. Kemp strikes. Gadway misses. Alan Mabor. He strikes. Frank Dash now over here in the third frame. Looking for the 7 pin. He's got it. Gets a spare. And he gets us to James Tierney Jr. And he gets 9 pins. Tierney goes with a bumblebee for the spare and misses it. Now Poisson. He gets 9 pins. Kusalanis for the Indians. He gets 9 pins. Poisson misses the spare. Kusalanis, his spare. Bring up Davison. He gets 9 on his first ball. And it gets us to Real for Peru. Davison spares. Sneaking up there right on I wasn't looking, was John Gadway, and he gets 9 pins on his first ball. Violet on the lane 15 for the Indians. He gets 8 pins, and Gadway picks up his spare. At this point, it's 4-12 for the Cougars, 4-04 for the Indians, so it's a real close match at this point. Violet gets 2. And now Mavor gets 9 in his first ball. Kemp. Mavor for the Cougars. The Sparrows. Kemp picks up the spare, and Tierney leaves 2 in his first ball. We had to switch batteries. We missed Dajnal picking up his spare. Now Kusalan is leading off the 5th frame. And Poisson for the Cougars. Poisson gets 7 for the frame. Now Rael, he strikes. Davison for the Cougars. Cougars all got 9 pins in their first ball, and except for Poisson, they all got a spare in the 4th frame. Violet gets 9 pins in his first ball. And Davison picks up the spare. Violet picks up the spare. Now Gadway for the Cougars. Didn't step in the line, but I think it's a fault. Kemp. Kemp strikes. So Gadway gets a fault on his first ball. He'll try to pick up his spare now with the 10 pins as Dajna gets 9 in his first ball. Now Gadway going for a spare. And he gets 6 for the frame. And Dajna closing out the 5th. Misses. Gets us to Alan Mavor, and he gets 7 pins in his first ball. Mavor had started the game with a couple of strikes. He's working on a spare here, so he's off to a good start. Looking to keep it going, and he chops off 1 pin. Now James Tierney. It's a baby split. Kelly Poisson will start the 6th frame for the Cougars. He avoids that same split. This is doable. Tierney misses them both. He's got a 74 through 5. And Poisson misses his spare. That gets us to Kusalanis.
James, I'm resetting, so.
We got to reset. They're resetting that one. Davison steps up and gets a strike. And Jonathan Gadway leaves a 7 pin. With 10 pins up there, Kusalanis will bowl. And he gets most of them. Picks up 8 on his first ball. Gadway going for the 7 pin. And he'll put it in the gutter. Solanas. Now Mabor. 3 pins on the first ball for Real. And Mabor will have an open here in the 6th. Real gets 7 for the frame. There's Tierney. Tierney gets 9 pins. Violet will step up now for the Indians. He's working on a spare. 561 to 553. The Indians are leading the Cougars through the end of the 5th. Now Tierney finishes up the Cougar 6th frame. Let's check that score through 553 for the Cougars, 570 and counting for the Indians. Violet misses. Kemp working on a strike. Gets 7. So it's now 553 to 577 plus whatever he gets on this one, a possible 580. 579 to 553. It's a 26-point lead, 26-pin lead for the Indians. And now with Dajna bowling in the anchor spot in the 6th, he gets a 9, give him 623 to 600. It's a 23-pin lead. Not counting the spares and the strikes. And he'll pick up the spare, so Cougars pick up 2 pins, and that's all they pick up in the 6th. 600 to 624 at this point. Now we have Pusilana starting the 7th frame. Now Poisson for the Cougars. It's 9. Poisson was working on an open. Pusolanis was working on a spare. He gets an open. Now, and I'll bring up Real, and he gets 9 pins in his first ball. Davison for the Cougars. Gets 8 pins. Spare for Real. Davison will miss his spare. Chris Violet for Peru. It's 9 pins. Gadway, it's 9. Both bowlers working on an open. Violet spares and Gadway misses. Now Kemp up for the Indians. Mabor strikes for the Cougars. Alan Mabor. Kemp gets a spare. And Tierney gets a strike. sound at this point is going in and out. I hope not. Dajna. And he picks up the spare. So 6:18 for the Cougars through 6 frames. 6:64 in the 7th. 17-point difference and a 19-point difference through 7. Kusalanis starts the 8th of the strike. Poisson gets 9 pins. Poisson will miss his spare. Brings up Real. He strikes. Now Davison for the Cougars. It's 7 pins. Violet strikes. Indians putting the pressure on. Davison will pick up his spare. Brings us to Kemp for the Indians. Indians with 3 strikes so far here in the 8th frame. Now Gadway. He gets a strike. The Indian lead has increased, and it's going to increase even more here. Kemp gets an open. Mavor for the Cougars. He strikes. Well, Northeastern badly needing some pins. You get a couple of back-to-back strikes here as Dajna gets 7 pins in his first ball. Make that 6 pins. There's Tierney now for the Cougars. He's working on a strike. And it leaves a 10 pin. Mavor has a double, I just noticed that. Dajna will leave 3 pins. So at this point, 763 to 731 as Tierney misses his spare. Kusalanis strikes. Gives him a double in the 9th. Poisson strikes for the Cougars. Real. He strikes. So he's got a double. Violet working on a strike, looking for 3 doubles in a row. 10 pin prevents it. Davison gets 6. Indians increasing their lead on the Cougars. Kemp for Peru, excuse me. And Gadway for the Cougars. Gadway strikes. He's got a double. Let's see. Yep, he's got a double. Kemp picks up his spare. Now Mavor, who's working on a double. Step in there. Northeastern at this point trailing by close to 60 pins, about 57 pins behind Indians. And Mavor triples with the turkey. Brings up Dajna. And Tierney for the Cougars. He gets 8 pins. Tierney Tierney picks up the double wood. So going into the 10th frame, 8:38 to 8:14. Cougars have closed it up a little bit. Poisson working on a strike, gets 8 pins and a little near split. Kusalanis right down the middle. He strikes to start things in the 10th. Gives him a triple. You got a turkey. Poisson will finish with a 106. Kusalanis working on a triple. Davison, he strikes. Kusalanis. Davison. He doubles. Braille for the Indians working on a double. He gets a turkey. .67 pin advantage for the Indians at this point. Dave gets the strike, gives them a turkey to end the game. He finished with a 152. Real and Gadway. Gadway was working on a double. He gets 9 pins in his first ball. Will finish with a 165. Nice game. 152 said for Davison. Gadway will pick up his spare. He'll get a fill ball. Gadway gets 9 in this fill ball. Violet gets 7 in his first ball. Mabor working on a triple. Gets 9 in his ball. Violet. A nice job trying. So he'll finish with a 148 or 150. Oh, it's forgot about those other 2 pins. Mabor will pick up his spare. He'll get a fill ball. Now Mabor for the still ball. He gets the strike. Mabor 2-0-2. How about that? Not bad at all. That might be the Mabor family record right there. Kemp. Tierney. Kemp with his fill ball. $9.45 for the Cougars, plus whatever Tierney can get here. $9.49, I believe. At $9.49, Tierney will finish with a 144. They have 144, 202, 139, 152, and 106 for the Cougars. Now Dajna for the Indians, anchor band. They have 177, 165, 150, 143 for Kemp. Dajna finishing it up. Now spares. He'll finish with a 134, so it's 980 to 949. 31 pin difference for the Indians here in the second game with the B match.
Calvin, how come I ain't taking Calvin?
This is Calvin Castine. John Roberts has the camera. We have departed for a basketball game, and John Roberts graciously agreed to run the camera for us. Hopefully he'll shoot at the scoreboard once in a while so we can see what the scores are. This is Sarah Stansberry bowling for Peru, and looks like she has an open. Rabideau was the first bowler for the Cougars. Now Lindsay Bayshard just finished bowling, and now we have for Peru Melissa Frederick and Jessica Gaudette for the Cougars. Gaudette gets 9 pins, and looks like Frederick has a split. Almost looks like double pinochle from here. Frederick gets 2 of them, and Gaudette will go in the gutter and not pick up her spare. And you might hear John cheering on his son as as he's taping this. He's trying to pay attention to his son and his daughter both. We have Kristen Bayshard for the Cougars and Stacy Garrow for the Indians. We're always looking for people, as Bayshard gets probably a total of 7 or 8 pins. Always looking for play-by-play people. John graciously agreed to run the camera, but he needed somebody to do some play-by-play. So if you're a bowling fan, or you're a Cougar bowling fan, and you'd like to see a little play-by-play on this type of stuff, why not volunteer? Cassie Roberts picks up 9 pins on her first ball, and that brings us to Nicole Stansberry for the Indians. Well, that was Stacy Garrow, I guess. That's Garrow for the Indians. We missed Hannah Sorrell. Sorrell was the one that we called Garrow. Meanwhile, Roberts has picked up a spare, and Garrow picks up a spare. Now gets us to Nicole Stansberry. And starting the second frame for Peru is Sarah Stansberry. They got the Stansberry girls. Sarah picks off about 7 on her first ball, and that's similar to the spare that Nicole Stansberry has to make right here, and she leaves 1. Sarah Stansberry is kind of a mirror image of the one that Nicole Stansberry had to pick up, and Sarah Stansberry picks up the spare. Now Katie Rabideau for the Cougars. And Rabideau leaves a pin. And Melissa Frederick bowling for the Indians. Looks like she left a 10 pin. Rabideau now for the Cougars, and she picks up her spare. Now Frederick. And she gets her spare. I'll bring up Lindsay Bayshard for Northeastern and Hannah Sorrell for the Indians. Here's Lindsay Bayshard. And Hannah Sorrell. Sorrell leaves a 7 pin. Bayshard looks like she has about 3 to pick up. And she leaves 1, so she'll have an open here in a second. And Sorrell misses her spare. Now Jessica Godet. And Godet picks off about 7 on her first ball, and brings us to Stacy Garrow for Peru. On lane number 12. Now Godet going for her spare, and she gets it. So Godet spares in a second. And Garrow spares. Now Kristen Bayshard in lane 11 for the Cougars. Bayshard picks up 8 on her first ball. And Nicole Stansberry up for the Indians. And we have a strike here for Nicole Stansberry, the anchor bowler. And meanwhile, Bayshard is going to miss her spare and bring up Cassie Roberts, anchor bowler for the Cougars. But before she gets up there, we have Katie Rabideau in lane number 12 for Northeastern. She's the lead bowler. Roberts the anchor bowler. So Roberts finishing up the second frame, and Rabideau starting the first. Roberts strikes. Rabideau starting the third frame. And Rabideau will not pick up her... Whoa, she picked it up. Rabideau did pick up that spare. Looked like it was going to the left, but must be John's camera work was deceiving for me here. Now Sarah Stansberry leaves a 7 pin, looks like. And Lindsay Bayshard right down the middle, and she gets the strike. So Bayshard strikes in the third for the Cougars. Stansberry has a 7 pin to pick up. Jessica Godet now for the Cougars in lane 12. It's not an eclipse. John just pushing the wrong button there, I think. Now Stansberry. And Stansberry will miss it going into the gutter. Looks like Godet has 7 pin to pick up. And she has it covered. And Godet gets a spare. Now Melissa Frederick. And Frederick strikes in the third for Peru. Kristen Bayshard in lane 12 for the Cougars. And looks like she might have double wood from here. Can't tell. She's got either 8 or 9 in that first ball, but looks like double wood from here. And Hannah Sorrell now for the Indians in lane number 11. Bayshard does leave one, so she must have had some double wood in there somewhere. Bring up Cassie Roberts for the Cougars. Cougars bowling a little bit faster than the Indians at this point. Sorrell, the third bowler for Peru, leaves a pin. Roberts working on a strike, picks off about 7. And I'll have Garrow up for the Indians. And John's fading out again. Where'd we go, John? There we are. John's leaning on the fade button here. Cassie Roberts. She gets 9. Now Garrow going for her spare, and she'll leave about 3. So that'll bring us quickly to the 4th frame, and Sarah Stansberry will be up to start the 4th, and we'll have Nicole Stansberry finishing the 3rd in lane number 3. Nicole Stansberry leaves 2 of them. Sarah Stansberry, the lead bowler. She leaves 2 or 3. And the anchor bowler puts it in the gutter. So she'll have an open in the 3rd. Sarah Stansberry picks up her spare to start things in the 4th for Peru. Now Katie Rabideau in lane number 11 for the Cougars. Nice ball. She leaves 2. And Frederick up for the Indians in lane number 12. Strike for Frederick. Rabideau picks up her spare. So now it'll be Lindsay Bayshard for Northeastern and Hannah Sorrell for the Indians. Bayshard left 10 pin. Is Bayshard, and she misses her spare. Now Sorrell has a bigger target. And she'll get a couple of them, leaves 2, picked off 2. So that'll get us to Jessica Gaudette for Northeastern and Stacy Garrow for the Indians. Here's Gaudette. Gaudette gets 8 on her first ball. Garrow down the middle and left 1 or 2. Can't really tell from the camera here. Forgot to show John where the zoom button was. But he found the fade button by himself. Maybe he could find the zoom. Looks like Gaudette picked up her spare, and so does Garrow. So it gets us to Nicole Stansberry in lane 12 for the Indians, and Kristen Bayshard for the Cougars in lane number 11. Bayshard strikes. Now get us to Cassie Roberts after Stansberry rolls her first ball in the fourth, and she leaves a 10 pin. Now Roberts in lane number 11. And she strikes. Stansberry picks up the 10 pin. And we move to frame number 5. There's Sarah Stansberry. And looks like she got about 7 on her first ball. Now Rabideau up for the Cougars. And Katie Rabideau picked off about 7. Stansberry going for her spare. She's going to miss it. Goes to the left of all, leads them all. Rabideau with a very similar spare, and she goes to the right. So one to the left, one to the right, and all the pins remain standing here in the fifth frame. First the bowlers. Now Kristen Bayshard in lane number 12 for the Cougars. Oh, excuse me, Lindsay Bayshard and Frederick for the Indians. Lindsay Bayshard's ball right down the middle, and she leaves a split. And Frederick just barely avoids a split. Looks like she's got a 10 pin left. Lindsay Bayshard will try to get one of them. And she misses. Garrow picks up her spare. Or Frederick, that is. Frederick picks up her spare. And he gets us to Gaudette for the Cougars. Gaudette right down the middle. And she leaves about 2, maybe 3. Now Sorrell for Peru. And she leaves a baby split. Gaudette will leave 1 here in the 5th. Well, Sorrell picks up 1. Kristen Bayshard, her first ball. Leaves, I believe, 3 pins. Garrow for Peru. Bayshard has an open here in the 5th. Cassie Roberts up for the Cougars. And Garrow will spare. Roberts working on a strike. Picks off about 7 or 8. Nicole Stansberry now for the Indians in lane number 11. And Stansberry strikes. Roberts for the spare. And she'll pick it up. So that'll bring us to the 6th frame. Sarah Stansberry up for the Indians. Katie Rabideau up for the Cougars. Looks like Rabideau will go first. Starting the 6th frame. Rabideau picks off about 7. And Stansberry will leave a split. Rabideau picks off the front ones, but the back one stayed there. And Stansbury misses them all. Bring us to Lindsay Bayshard for Northeastern. Melissa Frederick for the Indians. Bayshard's ball is out there, and she picks off about 8. Now Frederick, she picks off about 8. Looks like very similar spares for Bayshard and Frederick. There's Bayshard's ball. She's going to miss her spare. Went to the left of it. Now Frederick. She's going to pick it up. Looks like she had 3 pins there. Now Jessica Godet for the Cougars. Godet leaves the 7 pin. Sorrell now for the Indians. Godet spares. And we have Garrow up for Peru. Garrow gets about half of the pins. Jessica Bayshard for the Cougars. She gets probably just 1 in the corner there. She went for her spare first. Now she'll pick up the bulk of them on her second ball. And she'll leave just 1 pin, so a nice comeback there for Bayshard, but she left 1. Garrow also had an open. Now Nicole Stansbury for the Indians and Cassie Roberts for the Cougars. We're up to the anchor bowlers. And Roberts gets 8 on her first ball. Looked like Stansbury got maybe 6 on her first ball. Here in the 6th frame. And Stansbury spares. It's a congratulatory handshake from Cassie Roberts. Roberts going for her spare, and she should have it covered, and she does. So that'll bring us to the 7th frame. And Katie Rabideau and Sarah Stansbury. Katie Rabideau will go first here in the 7th. CVAC High School Bowling. Stansbury gets 7 pins, 9 pins, leaves the 7. Peru at Northeastern at the Bowl Mart. John Roberts running the camera while I have gone to a basketball game. We're putting the audio in after the fact, so we can't tell you the ongoing score because we can't see it. Both bowlers here in the 7th leave an open. And it gets us to Lindsay Bayshard and Melissa Frederick. Bayshard up for the Cougars. And Bayshard gets 9 of them. Frederick for the Indians. She gets 8 of them. Bayshard's going to pull to the left on her spare, so she'll have an open in the 7th. Chris Welch, the bottom right portion of your screen there, that's the Cougar coach. Just Godet for the Cougars. Also want to take a moment to remind bowling fans that we need viewer support to keep this kind of programming coming. Frederick has an open in the 7th. The Roberts family renewed their viewer support earlier today. They were taping this. Faithful supporters of Hometown Cable. But we need everybody supporting this kind of programming. Cadet got her spare, and now Sorrell gets about 8 on her first ball. Kristen Bayshard up for the Cougars. So if you're not supporting Hometown Cable, strike for Bayshard. Why not take this time right now to grab that checkbook and write out a check? Larger the better. Send it to Hometown Cable, 1477 Ridge Road, Champlain, New York, 12919. 1477 Ridge Road. There's a strike there, a spare for Sorrell. And Roberts will strike. I knew there was a strike coming there somewhere. And it was from Cassie Roberts, 8th grader, and anchor bowler on her team. Now Stacy Garrow for Peru. Waiting for Sarah Stansbury to get up and lane number 12. She'll probably wait till Garrow finishes. Doesn't want to get too far ahead of the people on the 11th alley. Garrow has an open in the 7th. That'll bring up Nicole Stansbury, and hopefully Sarah Stansbury will get up here in the lane number 12. We still don't see her moving. There she comes. And Nicole Stansbury has a baby split. Sarah Stansbury starting the 8th. And she's got a major split here. Left herself with a tough one. Nicole Stansbury puts it in the gutter and misses her spare. Trying to, instead of going for the wood and getting on one of them, she was trying to pick up both, and she ended up missing them both. Nice try there by Sarah Stansbury. Now Katie Rabideau for the Cougars, and she picks off about 7, maybe 8. Eighth frame. Katie Rabideau. And she leaves 1 or 2. Now Frederick for the Indians. And she might have double wood here. Looks like 1 pin standing, but that could be 2, one behind the other. Now Lindsay Bayshard. And looks like she left just 1. Now we'll see if Frederick has double wood. Probably not. Looks like it was just 1 pin there. It didn't sound like 2. Now Bayshard. And Bayshard picks off her spare. Now Sorrell. Lane number 12 for the Cougar, for the Indians, for the Peru Indians. Hannah Sorrell picks off 8 pins. And Jessica Gadet will get up in lane number 11 for the Cougars. And she'll leave 3 pins. Sorrell. She misses her spare. So Hannah Sorrell missed a relatively easy spare, and Gadet, with a similar spare, does the same thing. Both going to the right of the pins. Now Stacy Garrow for the Indians. And Kristen Bayshard for the Cougars. Bayshard leaves a 7 pin. Looks like Garrow's got at least 4, maybe 5 pins to pick up, and she'll get a couple of them, maybe one of them. In the meantime, Kristen Bayshard gets hers, Kristen Bayshard picked up hers. So it gets us to the anchor bowlers. Nicole Stansberry for the Indians. Right down the middle, and she strikes. Cassie Roberts for the Cougars. And she leaves a 10 pin. Rebidu strikes to start the 9th. Roberts will miss her spare. Cassie Roberts misses her spare. So she has an open in the 8th. Oh, Lindsay Bayshard up for the Cougars. Lane 12. 9th frame. She leaves 3. Sarah Stansberry leaves a 10 pin. Bayshard gets 2, and congratulations on getting those 2 from Coach Welch. Stansberry misses the 10 pin. Now Gadet for the Cougars. And Jessica Gadet strikes. I'll bring up Frederick for Peru. Frederick gets 8 pins. Kristen Bayshard leaves the 10 pin. Frederick spares. Bayshard will pick up her spare also. John Roberts says, "I'm numb. His arm is getting tired." Hang in there, John. Keep pulling that camera up. Now Sorrell. We're in the 9th frame. Just 2 more to go. Just one. Well, actually, 1 more to go. Plus this one. Roberts. He leaves a 10 pin. Looks like the A bowlers, boys are done. They've finished up. Sorrell spares. And Robert spares. I'll bring up Stacy Garrow for Peru. And Sarah Stansberry will get up for the Indians here in the 10th frame. Oh, late drop there. Garrow might have just one pin left. So Stansberry starting the 10th. She gets a strike. She'll get 2 fill balls. There's Garrow. She spares. Sarah Stansberry working on a strike here in the 10th. Picks off about half of them. Nicole Stansberry finishing up the 9th. She strikes. And Sarah Stansberry gets the spare to finish her game. Katie Rabideau now up for the Cougars, starting the Cougar 10th. And she gets 7 pins in her first ball and a doable spare. Melissa Frederick for the Indians. And she picks off about 3 or 4. So she'll have a tougher but doable spare. The pins are all together. Not any kind of a split there. Should be something she could handle. Rabideau spares. She'll get a fill ball in the 10th. And Frederick goes to the right and has about 6 pins standing. Now bring up Hannah Sorrell for the Indians. Rabideau for the Cougars. Rabideau picked off the 10 pin, got that one out of the way. And Sorrell picks off about 3 pins. Sorrell. She leaves 1. And Lindsay Bayshard leaves 1. I'll bring up Garrow for Peru. Bayshard looking for the spare and puts it in the gutter. So that'll get us to Jessica Gaudette for Northeastern. As Garrow needs to pick up this spare to keep bowling. Bayshard picks off about 7 pins. Garrow spares. She'll get a fill ball. Gaudette is hoping to get a fill ball with a spare here. And she'll miss it. Leaves a pin standing. So Gaudette has an open in the 10th frame. Now Garrow's fill ball. And she picks up 10, another fill ball, gets a strike. Now Kristen Bayshard. She strikes to start the 10th. Cole Stansberry, where are you? Bayshard. It's probably 7 or 8. Bayshard. Their last fill ball picks off 2 more out of the 3. So nice job. 19 pins in the 10th frame. Stansberry leaves 2. And Cassie Roberts will start her 10th frame. Stansberry leaves a pin. Roberts looking to spare and get a fill ball, and she will. As Cassie Roberts gets set to bowl the final ball of the game, we want to thank John Roberts for grabbing the camera for us. As Cassie Roberts strikes. And in the immortal words of Jim Tierney, that's it from the Bowl Mart. Thanks for watching Hometown Cable.